The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a hiss that echoed through the cavernous hall. Ambassador Kira Powell took a deep breath as she stepped forward, leading the small human delegation, the first representatives of Earth, to ever stand before the assembled might of the interstellar governing body that ruled over thousands of worlds. The chamber stretched upward for what seemed like forever. Crystalline balconies, holding representatives from hundreds of species. Some humanoid, others utterly alien forms that defied comprehension. Floating orbs of light, tentacled masses hovering in anti-gravity fields, and beings composed of what appeared to be living metal, all turned their attention toward the humans we present. The representatives of Sol 3 designated Earth, said the tall blue-skinned announcer. His voice amplified throughout the chamber. Kira felt the weight of countless eyes upon her. The 4 other humans in her team stood tall despite the overwhelming pressure. This moment would determine humanity's fate in the cosmos, their admission to the galactic community or their isolation. The High Council presiding at the central platform consisted of 7 beings each, from one of the founding species of the Alliance. The chairperson, a graceful being with iridescent scales and 4 arms, raised a hand for silence. Humans, you stand before this council as supplicants. Her melodic voice carried throughout the chamber. Though your species has achieved faster than light travel, you remain primitive by our standards. Why should we grant you trading rights and diplomatic recognition? Kira stepped forward, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Honorable Council, we come seeking neither charity nor special treatment. We come offering partnership. A voice spoke from the upper tiers. Strange that primitives speak of partnership, not servitude. Several beings laughed, a harsh clicking sound that made Kira's skin crawl, but she maintained her composure. Perhaps they do not understand their place. Another voice called out. The chairperson raised her hand again. Silence, we will hear them before judgment. She turned to Kira. Continue, Ambassador. Kira nodded and signaled to her team member Marcus, who activated. A holographic display. Earth technology was crude compared to the Council standards, but it served its purpose. For 10,000 years, your Council has maintained peace across 27% of the galaxy. Kira began. We have studied your history, your achievements, your laws. Our scientists have dedicated decades to understanding your cultures and protocols. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Surprise evident among many of the delegates. You have been watching us, asked the chairperson, her inner eyelids blinking rapidly. Not directly, Kira replied. We intercepted your communications network 97 years ago when your survey ship passed through our outer solar system. You did not detect us, but we detected you. Outrage erupted from several sections of the chamber. The security protocols had been breached. A grave violation of council law. The chairperson slammed a ceremonial staff against the floor, the sound reverberating through the chamber. Order, she commanded, before turning back. To Kira, this admission alone could result in your planet's quarantine for another 1,000 years. Kira nodded. We anticipated that response, which is why we came prepared to offer something in exchange. She gestured to another team member, Lisa, who stepped forward holding a small metallic cube. The humans have a gift, sneered one of the council members, a primitive token perhaps. Lisa placed the cube on the central platform and activated it. A holographic star map appeared showing regions of space far beyond the council's borders, detailed information about thousands of worlds, resources, mineral compositions, atmospheric conditions, and potential colonization. Data scrolled alongside. Impossible, gasped one of the council members, a gray-skinned being. With compound eyes, these are regions beyond our exploration range. Not beyond ours, Kira stated calmly. While your council expanded outward in a unified front, humans took a different approach. We sent thousands of small automated probes in all directions, sacrificing speed for quantity while your great ships traveled together. Our tiny explorers went everywhere. The chamber had fallen completely silent. For nearly a century, we've been mapping regions of space you have not yet reached. Kira continued. We offer this data freely as a gesture of goodwill and potential partnership. The council members conferred among themselves their private communication, inaudible to the human delegation. After several tense minutes, the chairperson addressed Kira. Again, impressive, Ambassador Powell, but knowledge alone does not guarantee maturity. Many species have technological prowess, yet lack the wisdom to join our community. What evidence do you offer of your species' readiness? Kira smiled slightly. This was the question she'd prepared for most carefully. We offer our greatest strength. She said, diversity on our world. We have thousands of cultures, languages, belief systems, and governance models. We have learned to live with difference to thrive through collaboration rather than conformity. She gestured around the chamber. Your council represents hundreds of species, yet each species speaks with one voice, one government, one culture. Humans bring something unique. We bring thousands of perspectives. Within a single species, the chairperson leaned forward. Intrigued, continue. Earth has survived climate crisis, global war, resource depletion, and technological upheaval. Kira said, we did not survive these challenges through unity, but through adaptation, through fierce debate and compromise, through allowing different solutions to emerge from different communities. We believe this diversity of thought is exactly what your council needs. Bold words from primitives came. A voice from the upper tier, Kira, turned, addressing the entire chamber directly. Our technology may be primitive by your standards, but our diplomatic experience is not. We have spent millennia learning to bridge seemingly impossible divides between different ways of thinking. Offer this expertise to the council. She turned back to the council leaders, and we are prepared to demonstrate. With that, Lisa activated another function of the cube, and data began streaming across the chamber displays. Translation protocols far more sophisticated than the council's standard systems, allowing for nuanced cultural context and emotional registers across species barriers. For centuries, the Avarians and the Krull have been unable to establish meaningful dialogue due to fundamentally different communication modalities, said Kira. As the demonstration played out, our linguistics team studied both species and developed this translation system. On the display, an Avarian floating sphere of light communicated with a Krull crystalline entity, their conversation flowing naturally for the first time. The council watched in astonishment. This is but one example, Kira said. We have identified 17 major communication barriers between council species that current translation protocols cannot bridge. We offer solutions for all of them. The chairperson conferred with the other council members before addressing Kira. Again, you present compelling arguments, Ambassador Powell. Yet some among us remain concerned about your species' warlike tendencies. Your historical records show significant conflict. Kira nodded. We do not hide our flaws, Chairperson. We have known war, yes, but we have also known peace. We have learned that diversity without respect leads to conflict, that power without restraint leads to destruction. These are lessons written in our history in blood and hope. A new voice spoke from the council, a being composed of swirling gases contained within a mechanized suit. Ambassador Powell, if we were to grant provisional status to humanity, what assurances do we have that you would abide by council law when your species clearly has a tendency toward independent action? Kira looked directly at the gaseous entity. We offer no blind obedience, counselor, but we do offer honest partnership. We will follow council law where it serves justice, and we will challenge it respectfully where it does not. Our history has taught us that unquestioning compliance is as dangerous as chaos. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some approving, some outraged. You would presume to challenge laws established over millennia. Asked the chairperson. Kira stood her ground respectfully. Yes, when necessary, the universe changes. The council must adapt or grow. Stagnant humans offer a perspective that values both tradition and innovation. After more private consultation, the chairperson addressed the chamber. We will recess to consider Earth's petition. The delegation will remain. As the council members withdrew, Kira returned to her team. Their expressions a mixture of hope and concern. Did we push too hard? Asked Marcus, keeping his voice low. Kira watched the departing council, maybe, but we couldn't afford to appear weak. They respect honesty more than submission. At least that's what our research suggested. Lisa nodded, looking around at the remaining delegates who were studying the humans with open curiosity. Some were approaching cautiously, initiating conversation. Your translation matrix is already making an impression. She observed several species are using it to speak to each other. Kira smiled. That's exactly what we hoped for. While the council deliberates, we build connections. As the hours passed, the human delegation engaged with dozens of species, answering questions, sharing stories. and learning about cultures from across the galaxy. By the time the council returned, the atmosphere in the chamber had subtly shifted. The chairperson took her position once again. Ambassador Powell, the council has reached a decision. Kira stepped forward, her heart racing but her expression calm. Your species presents an unusual case, she began. Your technological development is indeed primitive compared to council standards. Yet 6 months into Earth's provisional membership with the Galactic Council, Ambassador Kira Powell strode through the gleaming corridors of the diplomatic quarter on Alpha Station. The massive orbital habitat served as the neutral ground for thousands of species, each with their own enclave representatives and business interests. Something isn't right, Kira muttered to her aide Ben Rodriguez as they reviewed the latest trade proposals on their datapads. The council approved our technology exchange program 3 weeks ago, but every request we've submitted has been delayed or denied on technicalities. Ben nodded, his expression grim. The official explanation is security protocols. But other provisional members don't face these restrictions. The Nautulians were approved for quantum communication systems last cycle with minimal review. Kira stopped before a viewport, gazing out at the vast expanse of space dotted with ships of all configurations and sizes. Earth vessels looked primitive, by comparison bulky and functional rather than elegant. The technological gap was precisely what they were trying to bridge. We're being deliberately stalled, she said quietly. Ben, I need you to reach out to our contacts among the TradeAx delegation. They seemed sympathetic to our situation. Maybe they can shed some light on what's happening behind the scenes. Ambassador Powell. A melodic voice interrupted their conversation. Kira turned to find herself facing Counselor Valen, the graceful reptilian, chairperson of the High Council, her iridescent scales shimmering under the corridor lights. Counselor Kira said with a respectful bow. This is an unexpected honor. Valen gestured toward a private meeting alcove. May we speak? Once inside, the sound dampened. Space, the counselor deactivated her translator device and switched to perfect English. Surprising, Kira, you speak our language, Kira said, unable to hide her shock. Valen made a gesture equivalent to a smile. I make it my business to understand new species directly, not through translation devices. It gives perspective that most council members lack. Kira studied the counselor carefully. What can I do for you? You can explain why Earth is secretly launching deep space probes beyond council-monitored sectors, Valen said directly, her inner eyelids blinking slowly. Kira's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. Standard exploratory missions, counselor, as permitted under our provisional status. Valen made a soft clicking sound indicating disbelief. We both know these are not standard probes, Ambassador. They contain advanced scanning technology specifically designed to penetrate the radiation barrier in the Orion Spur, a region expressly forbidden to provisional members. Did you? Kira began, then stopped herself, realizing the implications. You've been monitoring our launch facilities. Not officially, Valen said, which is why we are having this conversation privately, rather than in a formal council session. I am curious why Earth would risk its provisional status for information about a seemingly empty region of space. Kira considered her options carefully, then made a decision. Earth intelligence detected unusual energy signatures from that region, consistent with artificial structures we were simply investigating. Valen's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of surprise. You found evidence of the ancients? Kira nodded. We believe so. Yes, structures that predate the council, perhaps even the founding species. The counselor was silent for a long moment, her vertical pupils narrowing. What else have you discovered? Only fragments, Kira admitted. We need more data to form any conclusions. Valen moved closer, lowering her voice further. Ambassador Powell, there are factions within the council who would react strongly to what you're doing. The founding species built their authority on the claim that they were the first advanced civilization in the galaxy. Evidence contradicting this would undermine their legitimacy. Kira finished understanding. Dawning precisely. Valen said, her scales shifting to a deeper blue hue. The political implications would be enormous. Certain council members would rather destroy Earth than allow such information to become public. Kira felt a chill run through her. Is that a threat, counselor? Not from me, Valen said. I belong to a minority faction that believes the council has grown stagnant clinging to outdated hierarchies and myths. We need change, but others will protect the status quo at any cost. Why are you telling me this? Kira asked, suspicion evident in her voice. Valen moved toward the exit. Your provisional review comes before the full council in 3 days. Ambassador, the Blokak delegation will move to revoke Earth's membership. Citing numerous minor violations, the vote will likely pass unless what? Unless you have something compelling enough to change the balance of power. Valen said, something perhaps from your unauthorized probes. With that, the counselor reactivated her translator and left the alcove, leaving Kira with more questions than answers. Ben found Kira still in the alcove reviewing data on her pad. What did the counselor want? He asked, concern evident on his face. Kira looked up, her expression determined. I need to speak with the Earth delegation immediately, all of them, and contact Home Command. We need to accelerate the Orion mission. Ben looked alarmed after what the counselor said. Shouldn't we be more cautious? Kira shook her head. We're running out of time. Ben, we need leverage, and we need it now. 12 hours later, the Earth delegation gathered in their secure conference room, the space designed to block all known forms of surveillance. Each member representing a different specialty, from diplomacy to xenobiology to military intelligence. Director Alan Foster of Earth Intelligence connected via quantum encrypted channel, his hologram flickering slightly. Ambassador Powell. He greeted your message, said this was urgent. It is, Director, Kira said. We have 3 days before the council votes on our provisional status based on inside information. We expect them to revoke our membership. Murmurs spread through the room. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the delegation's chief scientist, spoke up. That's ahead of schedule. The review wasn't supposed to happen for another 6 months. They fear what we're discovering. Kira explained, tapping commands into the table display, bringing up images of the Orion spur probes. Preliminary findings were making certain factions nervous. The holographic display showed massive structures floating in deep space. Geometric patterns that defied conventional engineering. Ancient beyond comprehension. Incredible, whispered Elena. The architecture suggests technology far beyond even council capabilities. Director Foster leaned forward in his hologram. These structures match the fragments we found in our solar system, buried beneath the lunar surface and on Mars. Exactly, Kira said. Whoever built these predates all known civilizations, including the council's founding species. Commander Jack Wade. The military attaché frowned. So the council is trying to shut us down before we can reveal this information. It's confirmation of our suspicions. Kira nodded. But Counselor Valen gave me a warning and possibly an opportunity. She seems to represent a reform faction within the council, one that might support us if we have compelling evidence. Jack looked skeptical. Can we trust her? I don't know. Kira admitted, but right now she's the only council member who hasn't tried to obstruct us. That has to mean something. Elena studied the probe data. The structures show signs of quantum entanglement on a massive scale, almost like they form a network across space itself. We need more time to understand what we're looking at. Time we don't have. Ben said. The vote is in 3 days. Director Foster cleared his throat. We've prepared for this contingency. Ambassador, Operation Legacy is ready for implementation. If authorized, Kira turned to the director. With surprise, I wasn't briefed on Operation Legacy. Foster nodded. It's compartmentalized, need to know only. It was developed as our insurance policy. Should council membership prove untenable, explain. Kira demanded. We've established independent colonies beyond council space, Foster said, equipped with enough technology and resources to ensure humanity's survival. Even if Earth faces sanctions or worse, 16 settlements on planets carefully selected to be of no interest to the council. Jack leaned forward, his expression grim. And the defense grid operational. Foster confirmed our lunar and Mars bases can deploy countermeasures against any council attempt at military action. Not enough to win a prolonged conflict, but enough to make any attack costly. Kira shook her head slightly. This is exactly the kind of thinking that makes the council suspicious of us. We're supposed to be building bridges, not preparing for war with respect. Ambassador Elena interjected, reviewing the data we've studied. Council history extensively. When confronted with challenges to their authority, they've historically responded with force. The Raxorian civilization was completely erased from galactic records after discovering similar artifacts. Silence fell over The rooms, or what do you propose? Kira asked, looking at each of them. Think we need to do both, Foster said. We continue diplomatic efforts through your office while preparing contingencies. That remains the prudent approach. Ben, who had been quietly analyzing data on his pad, looked up. Ambassador, the Nautulian delegate is requesting an urgent meeting. They say it's regarding our situation with the Council. Kira frowned. The Nautulians were also a provisional species relatively new to the Council. Strange timing, patch them through, she ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing a Nautulian representative, their translucent body pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that supplemented their speech. Ambassador Powell. We have intercepted communications between Council security forces, their translator device conveyed. They plan to seize your delegation and your ships in 26 standard hours under the pretext of a security exercise. Kira. The ancient structure buried beneath the lunar surface pulsed with blue energy as Dr. Elena Vasquez carefully inserted the final crystalline component. The massive chamber illuminated with symbols that had remained dormant for millions of years. It's working. She breathed, her voice filled with wonder as the patterns spread across the wall, ceiling, and floor, forming intricate connections. The combined data from Earth probes and Nautilian intelligence had provided the key to activating the alien technology behind her. Lieutenant Samantha West monitored security systems, her eyes constantly checking the radar for Council ships were running out of time. Doc, she warned, the Council fleet changed course 20 minutes ago. They're heading straight for the lunar base. 8 to 30 minutes. Alina nodded without looking away from her work. Just a little longer. Sam, the final sequence is aligning. The massive circular platform at the center of the chamber began to hum, the sound vibrating through their bodies at a cellular level unlike anything human science had encountered before. Tiny particles of light rose from the surface, forming a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Incredible, whispered Elena, as specific points on the map glowed brighter than others, forming a clear network pattern across the stars. These must be the connection points, the transportation network the Nautilians described. Sam approached cautiously, her military training making her wary of the alien technology. Can you determine how it works? Elena studied the control interface, her fingers hovering above symbols that seemed to shift and change as if alive. The Nautilian data suggests it's a form of quantum tunneling technology, instantaneous transportation between fixed points without conventional travel. The implications, Sam muttered. If this works? If this works. Elena finished. Humanity just gained access to technology the Council has been suppressing for millennia. Technology that would make our ships obsolete. Communication alert chimed from Sam's wrist device. She activated it. Commander Wade's voice coming through. Clearly, Council vessels have increased speed. They're now 20 minutes out and they've deployed fighters. Hostile intent. Confirmed, repeat. Hostile intent confirmed. Sam looked at Elena. We need to go now. Elena shook her head. I'm close to establishing the full network connections. Give me 15 minutes. We don't have 15 minutes. Sam argued. The evacuation shuttles are prepping for departure. Elena turned, her expression resolute. Go if you need to, Sam, but I'm finishing this. It's too important. Sam hesitated, then tapped her communicator. He'll stay with Dr. Vasquez. She transmitted, ensure the primary evacuation proceeds as planned. Elena shot her a grateful look as she continued working with the alien interface. While chaos erupted on the moon, Ambassador Kira Powell stood calmly before the Galactic Council, her diplomatic team flanking her on either side, the massive chamber filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds, many watching with keen interest as the human delegation faced judgment. Counselor Blokak, a massive being with stone-like skin and glowing eyes, spoke first, his deep voice resonating through the chamber. The evidence is clear, he rumbled. Humans have repeatedly violated Council directives, conducting unauthorized research in restricted sectors, deploying unregistered probes and concealing discoveries of galactic significance. Murmurs spread through the assembly as Kira maintained her composure. Furthermore, Blokak continued. They have established military installations beyond their approved defense perimeter and engaged in unauthorized communication with multiple species regarding restricted technologies. Kira waited for the accusations to finish before responding, her voice steady. Counselors, delegates of the Galactic Assembly. I stand before you not to deny these claims, but to question the foundation upon which they are made. Surprised whispers echoed through The Chamber Earth has indeed sought knowledge beyond the boundaries established by this council. Kira acknowledged we have indeed communicated with other species about technologies classified as restricted, and yes, we have prepared defenses beyond approved parameters. Blockak's eyes glowed brighter with vindication. You admit to these violations. I admit to these actions. Kira corrected. Whether they constitute violations depends on a more fundamental question. What gives this council the right to restrict knowledge, exploration, and communication between sentient species? Outrage erupted from several sections, particularly among the founding species delegates. Chairperson Valen raised her hand for silence, her scales shifting through colors, as she studied Kira. A bold approach, Ambassador. Perhaps you would clarify your meaning. Kira nodded, activating a holographic display showing the ancient structures discovered by Earth's probes for millions of years before the founding of this council. These structures existed throughout the galaxy, a network built by a civilization far more advanced than any represented here today. The chamber fell silent as the images rotated, showing the massive scale and complexity of the ancient technology. Earth did not create these structures. Kira continued. We merely discovered what the council has known about and concealed for centuries. The question is why? Why hide this technology from member species? Why restrict exploration of these sites? Why classify all research related to the ancient? Counselor Blokak rose to his full impressive height. This presentation is irrelevant to the matter at hand. The ancient ruins are restricted due to safety concerns. Many species have been destroyed by tampering with technologies beyond their understanding. Is that truly the reason? Kira asked, or is it because access to this network would fundamentally alter the balance of power in the galaxy, making your control of travel and communication obsolete? Valen's inner eyelids blinked rapidly. Ambassador Powell, these are dangerous accusations. With respect, Chairperson Kira replied. They are not accusations but questions. Questions that deserve answers if the council truly represents the interests of all sentient beings. As Kira spoke to the council, Elena and Sam worked frantically in the lunar facility. That's it, Elena exclaimed as the final sequence locked into place. The galactic map, now showing clear pathways connecting dozens of points across space, including one directly beneath their feet. The system is fully activated. Sam checked her tactical display. Council ships now 12 minutes out. We need to transmit this data to Earth. And the ambassador. Elena shook her head. The quantum field would disrupt conventional transmissions, but she pointed to the control interface. There's another way. She placed her hands on the glowing symbols, the interface responding to her touch as if it recognized her genetic pattern, information flowing directly into her mind. Overwhelming, yet somehow comprehensible. Sam watched in alarm as Elena's eyes began glowing with the same blue energy as the structure. Elena, all right? Elena said, her voice overlaid with harmonic frequencies. The system is communicating with me, showing me how. Abruptly, the central platform flared with brilliant light, forming a portal that shimmered with energy. Unlike anything they had seen before, it's a gateway. Sam whispered. Elena nodded, stepping toward it. This leads directly to the council chambers. Sam grabbed her arm. You can't be serious. We don't know if it's safe. Elena smiled, the ancient knowledge flowing through her. It's perfectly safe, Sam. The ancients built this system for beings remarkably similar to humans. In fact, the realization dawned on Sam. The ancients were human. Not exactly, Elena corrected, but close enough that their technology recognizes our genetic pattern as authorized users. That's why the council restricted these sites. They discovered that humans and several other species could activate technology they couldn't control. A massive explosion rocked the facility, dust falling from the ceiling. Council ships are firing on the outer defenses, Sam reported, checking her tactical display. We've got minutes at most. Elena turned to the portal, then back to Sam. Come with me. Across the galaxy in the council chambers, Kira continued her address. Earth proposes a new arrangement, she said, one based on cooperation rather than restriction. We are willing to share all our findings about the ancient technology to work with council scientists and representatives from all member species to understand and safely implement these discoveries. Impossible, shouted one of the founding species delegates. The technology is dangerous. Unstable, is it? Kira asked. Or is that what you've told less advanced species to maintain your advantage? According to our research, the system appears remarkably stable, designed to last millions of years with minimal maintenance. Suddenly a murmur spread through the chamber as delegates pointed toward the center of the floor where energy began to coalesce, forming a swirling pattern of light. Security forces rushed forward, weapons ready as Kira and her team backed away. Equally surprised by the development, portal opened in the middle of the council chamber and through it stepped Elena and Sam, their forms shimmering briefly before solidifying. Elena Vasquez Kira gasped how. The ancient network. Elena explained, her eyes still glowing faintly with blue. Energy, it's operational, Kira, and it's meant for us. Chaos erupted in the chamber, delegates shouting for explanations or fleeing in panic as security forces surrounded the humans, weapons trained on them. Order, shouted Chairperson Valen, her voice cutting. Through the din, order. The chamber gradually quieted, though tension remained palpable. Explain this, Councillor Blokak demanded. How did these humans breach council security? They didn't, Elena said calmly. They used a transportation system that predates your council by millions of years, a system built by the race you call the Ancient. Simpossible, Blokak insisted. The ancient technology has never been fully op. The reformed council chamber bore little resemblance to its former design. Gone was the hierarchical arrangement that had placed the founding species on elevated platforms. Instead, a circular forum allowed representatives from all worlds to address each other as equals. The ancient network portals now permanently installed at cardinal points, allowing instant travel between council headquarters and key worlds across the galaxy. Kira Powell now serving as Earth's permanent ambassador to the Galactic Council observed the proceedings with satisfaction. 3 standard months had passed since the dramatic revelation of the ancient technology and the subsequent Reformation vote. The transition had not been smooth. Several founding species had withdrawn, their delegations in protest, while others had embraced the change, seeing opportunity in the new order. Councillor Valen, now elected as first among equals rather than inheriting the position through her species status, called the session to order. The chamber's adaptive translator ensuring all delegates understood each other without traditional devices. Today we address the application of 7 new worlds seeking membership under the reformed charter. Valen announced, her scales shimmering with formal patterns. Kira exchanged glances with the Nautilian representative. Their alliance during the Reformation crisis had blossomed into a strong diplomatic partnership. Ambassador Liran, the council recognizes the representative from Earth. Valen said. Kira rose and approached the central podium. Thank you, Counselor. The delegation from Earth has reviewed the applications and supports the admission of all 7 worlds, particularly noting that 5 of these civilizations were previously classified as pre-contact under the old charter. Murmurs spread through the chamber, some approving, some concerned. The old council's non-interference directive had been one of its most sacred principles, prohibiting contact with species that had not achieved specific technological benchmarks. Ambassador Trevor Morrison, Earth's diplomatic liaison, leaned toward Kira, whispering, Blokak's faction is mobilizing. Notice how the Zendi and Balmorian representatives are conferring. Kira nodded slightly, maintaining her professional demeanor as she continued. These civilizations have demonstrated governance structures capable of managing the responsibilities of council membership. Though their technology may differ from traditional standards, their cultural and philosophical developments meet or exceed expectations. Councillor Blokak rose from his seat, his stone-like features set in displeasure. The Zendi delegation objects to this assessment. He rumbled, 4 of these applicants have not developed faster than light travel independent of the ancient network. They remain primitive by any reasonable standard. Kira had anticipated this argument and waited calmly for Valen to acknowledge her response. The reformed charter explicitly separates technological achievement from cultural readiness. Kira stated. Section 4, paragraph 12 reads, no civilization shall be denied representation based solely on technological development provided they demonstrate capacity for peaceful integration. Does the Zendi delegation dispute the capacity of these worlds for peaceful integration? Blokak shifted uncomfortably, unable to challenge the charter his faction had reluctantly signed. Does the Earth delegation dispute that introducing primitive species to advanced technology poses risks to galactic stability? Lyran, the Nautilian representative, pulsed with bioluminescent patterns signaling a desire to speak. The council recognizes the representative from Nautilus Prime. Valen said. The Nautilian floated forward, the water in their containment field rippling with their movement. with respect to the Zendi delegation history, now shows that the ancient network was designed specifically to allow diverse civilizations at different developmental stages to connect and learn from each other. The existence of genetic keys that respond to certain species suggests this was the ancients' intention, a representative from the Hadari collective. A new member enabled by the Reformation stood the transparent, crystalline being catching the light. This perspective aligns with our experience the network activated for our species, despite our limited development in conventional propulsion technology. Yet our philosophical and mathematical achievements exceed. Many traditional council members, Blokek and his allies, conferred their displeasure evident. But the legal foundation of their objections had been dismantled by the Reformed Charter. Kira allowed herself a small smile, remembering the weeks of negotiation that had gone into drafting those specific clauses. Valen observed the exchange before addressing the chamber. We will proceed to vote on each application individually, beginning with the world-designated Terravis 4 as. The voting commenced. Kira stepped back from the podium, rejoining Trevor at the Earth delegation station. They're adapting faster than expected, Trevor observed, nodding toward Blokek and his allies. They're shifting their strategy, Kira nodded. I noticed they've stopped challenging the legitimacy of the Reformation. Instead, they're working within the new system to maintain influence. Trevor lowered his voice. We have reports that several founding species are forming a separate alliance outside council jurisdiction. Military exercises have been observed near the Hadarian frontier. Kira frowned, concerning but not unexpected. She replied the balance of power shifted too dramatically for some to accept gracefully. What's the status of the network expansion? Dr. Elena Vasquez has activated 16 additional nodes. Trevor reported, bringing the total to 42 functional transportation hubs across council and independent space block. Ax certainly knows this. The ancient technology continues to favor the same genetic markers. Humans, Nautilians, Hadarians, and several other formerly provisional species. Across the chamber, Elena Vasquez, now serving as Earth scientific liaison to the council, was deep in conversation with representatives from various worlds. Her expertise on the ancient technology making her one of the most sought-after consultants in galactic affairs. The knowledge she had absorbed directly from the lunar node had transformed her understanding of physics and dimensional mathematics. Commander Samantha West approached Elena, interrupting her discussion with a Hadarian scientist. Excuse me, Doctor. The Security Council session begins in 10 minutes. Elena nodded, thanking the Hadarian before turning to Sam, still struggling with the transition from military to diplomatic protocol. Sam, she said with a smile. How are you adapting to your new role? Sam straightened, unconsciously falling into military posture. It's different coordinating security with 50 species instead of just human personnel. But I'm managing. They walked together toward the Security Council chambers, a specialized forum where military and defense matters were discussed. The Reformed Council maintains a peacekeeping force, Elena observed, but its purpose has shifted from enforcement to protection. Interesting evolutions. Em looked troubled, speaking quietly as they navigated the crowded corridors. Not everyone sees it that way. Blokek's faction views the peacekeepers as weakened intelligence suggests they've been expanding their independent military capabilities. Elena considered this the ancient technology was never meant for warfare. Sam, the network itself resists weaponization. It was designed for exploration, communication, and cooperation. Em raised an eyebrow. You sound like you're channeling them sometimes, the way you talk about the ancients' intentions. Elena smiled apologetically. The knowledge transfer was extensive. Sam, I understand their perspective, their hopes for galactic development. Sometimes it's difficult to separate their thoughts from my own. In the main chamber, the voting had concluded with all 7 applicant worlds approved for membership. Kira and Trevor prepared to exit when Valen's aide approached them. The chairperson requests your presence. For a private consultation, Ambassador Powell. Kira nodded to Trevor. Carry on with the scheduled meetings. I'll join you afterward. Valen's private chambers reflected her species' aesthetic minimalist, with water features and carefully cultivated light patterns. The chairperson dismissed her aides once Kira entered. Ambassador Valen greeted her, scales shifting to informal patterns. Thank you for coming. Kira took the offered seat, curious about the unusual invitation. How can I assist you? Chairperson Valen activated a privacy field before speaking. The Blokak faction has been more active than they appear. She said directly, we've intercepted communications, suggesting a coordinated effort to undermine the reformed council. Not surprising, Kira acknowledged. But concerning what specifically are they planning? Valen projected a star map highlighting several systems near the galactic core. They've established a separate governance structure in these regions. Essentially, a shadow council comprised primarily of founding species disaffected by the reforms. Kira studied the map. They control significant resources in those sectors and military assets. Valen added, our intelligence suggests they are attempting to develop countermeasures against the ancient network that shouldn't be possible. Kira said the technology resists weaponization, according to Dr. Vasquez. Valen nodded. True, they cannot corrupt the network itself, but they can potentially block access to it or disrupt the connection points. We believe they're researching methods to identify and neutralize the genetic markers that allow activation. Kira considered this information carefully. Why tell me this privately? Why not bring it to the Security Council? Valen deactivated the map. Her scales shifting to deeper colors. Humanity played a pivotal role in the Reformation, Ambassador. Yet some believe your species moved too quickly, pushed too hard. The emergency council session erupted in chaos as reports confirmed Shadow Council warships had established blockades around 3 network nodes, effectively cutting off access to newly admitted worlds. Delegates shouted accusations and demands for action. While security forces scrambled to assess the rapidly evolving situation, Chairperson Valen called repeatedly for order, her scales flashing urgent patterns that transcended the need for translation. Finally, the chamber quieted enough for proceedings to begin. We have confirmed reports that vessels from former council species have established control over network nodes in the following sectors. Valen announced, displaying a galactic map with highlighted regions. Communications with the affected worlds have been severed. Kira studied the tactical display with growing concern. The Shadow Council had chosen their targets strategically, isolating worlds with limited conventional space travel capabilities, worlds that depended entirely on the network for connection to the reformed council. Ambassador Powell. Valen said the council recognizes Earth. Kira approached the central podium, her expression grave. The pattern of this blockade suggests a coordinated attempt to demonstrate the vulnerability of network-dependent worlds. She began, particularly those recently admitted under reformed protocols. The Nautilian representative pulsed with agitated bioluminescence. They seek to prove that the Reformation has created instability, that the old order provided security we lacked. Precisely, Kira agreed, however. This action also reveals their fundamental misunderstanding of the ancient network. Murmurs spread through the chamber. As Kira continued, our scientific liaison, Dr. Elena Vasquez, has confirmed that the network possesses defensive capabilities designed to preserve connectivity in the event of interference. She explained, we have the ability to activate these systems immediately. Blokak's faction, Representative Azendi, diplomat named Morvan, rose in opposition. This would constitute a dangerous escalation, he warned. We urge restraint until diplomatic channels can be explored. Kira acknowledged him with a nod. The Earth delegation agrees that diplomacy should be our first approach, she said, which is why I propose a 2-part response. First, an immediate diplomatic mission to Shadow Council space to open negotiations. Second, preparation of network defensive systems to be activated only if diplomacy fails. Valen considered the proposal. The chair supports this balanced approach. She said, we will now vote on Ambassador Powell's recommendation. As the voting proceeded, Elena sat in the Earth delegation section, reviewing data on her pad. Sam leaned close. What? Aren't you telling them? She whispered. Elena looked up, her expression troubled. The defensive capabilities aren't just passive shields, Sam. There's something more complex. The ancients designed the network to evolve. Respond, adapt. Sam frowned. Evolution implies change. What exactly will happen if these systems activate? Lena shook her head. I'm not entirely certain. The knowledge transfer from the lunar node included conceptual understanding, but many specifics remain unclear. The ancients thought, differently experienced reality. Differently translating their intentions into our framework is challenging. The council voted overwhelmingly to approve Kira's proposal with only Blokak's faction opposing. Valen addressed Kira directly. Ambassador, Powell, you will lead the diplomatic mission, select your team, and prepare for immediate departure. Kara bowed slightly, then returned to the Earth delegation. Trevor, Dr. Vasquez, Commander West. I need you all for this mission, she said quietly. Leaving in 1 hour as they prepared for departure, Elena accessed the primary network interface in the Council headquarters, connecting briefly with the system, her consciousness expanding as the ancient knowledge flowed through her. The network was changing. She could feel it responding to the blockade not just as a mechanical system, but as something almost alive. Preparations for the diplomatic mission proceeded rapidly, with representatives from 5 species joining the Earth delegation, each chosen for their unique perspective and skills. The Nautilian diplomat Lyran, the Hadarian philosopher, Tekla, a Palaxian security expert, designated Forge, the crystalline scientist from Aldemar, and a representative from one of the newly admitted World Skiris team assembled in the transportation chamber, preparing to use the network itself to travel to neutral space near the Shadow Council territory. Trevor examined the tactical data. The Shadow Council has established a meeting point in the Kelderan system. He reported neutral territory historically used for sensitive negotiations. Sam checked her security detail. It's a trap, she muttered. Too convenient. They create a crisis. Then immediately agree to talk. Skira considered this possibility. It may well be, she agreed, but we need to demonstrate good faith. The Reformed Council must be seen as reasonable, willing to negotiate. And if they're not willing? Elena asked. Then we have our answer. Kira replied, and proceed accordingly. The diplomatic vessel prepared for departure, conventional engines powering up rather than using the network, a deliberate choice to approach the meeting through normal space, as a sign of respect for Shadow Council concerns. 6 hours later, they arrived at the Keldarian system, a binary star arrangement, with a massive space station constructed in the neutral zone between traditional Council space and what had become Shadow Council territory. The station itself was an ancient construction, repurposed over millennia, its original function long forgotten. Enormous arched windows revealed a breathtaking view of the twin stars, while the interior combined technology from dozens of species, a testament to millennia of galactic cooperation. As Kira's team docked and proceeded through security protocols, they were met by representatives from the Shadow Council led by Ambassador Lorak, a founding species diplomat known for his moderate views. Ambassador Powell. Lorak greeted with formal gestures. The Shadow Council appreciates your willingness to meet. Kira returned the greeting with equal formality. The Reformed Council seeks peaceful resolution. Ambassador Lorak. We hope today's discussions will be productive. They proceeded to the negotiation chamber, a circular room with a transparent dome showing the binary stars above the symbolism. Not lost on either delegation, 2 distinct powers orbiting a common center unseated. Lorak opened the discussion. The Shadow Council has concerns about the rapid expansion of network access, particularly to worlds without sufficient technological development to understand its implications. Kira nodded. We acknowledge these concerns, Ambassador, and recognize the wisdom accumulated by the founding species over millennial. Lorak's expression showed surprise at this concession. He had clearly expected immediate defense of the Reformation. However, Kira continued, technology alone has never been the sole measure of a civilization's readiness for galactic citizenship. The Reformed Council believes that cultural, philosophical, and ethical development are equally important metrics. Lorak leaned forward slightly. Your activation of the ancient network fundamentally altered the balance of power that had maintained peace for millennia. This cannot be disputed. Kira did not disagree. The network changed everything. Ambassador, just as faster than light travel once did, just as matter transportation did before that, galactic civilization has always evolved through technological paradigm shifts. Tekla, the Hadarian philosopher, spoke, their crystalline form catching the light. Those who resist change rarely prevent it. They merely exclude themselves from shaping it. Lorak turned his attention to the Hadarian. Your world was deemed pre-contact less than a year ago by traditional council standards. Yet now you lecture founding species on the nature of change with respect. Ambassador Tekla replied, My civilization has existed for 12,000 years, developing philosophy, mathematics, and art. While yours explored the stars, does the path matter more than the destination? Tensions rose in the chamber as the delegations exchanged increasingly direct statements. Alina, who had remained silent watching the exchange, with unusual intensity suddenly stood, her eyes glowing faintly with the blue energy of the network. "They're activating weapons," she announced. Sam immediately moved to defensive position. Ship sensors confirm energy buildup across Shadow Council vessels, approaching from the system periphery. Lorak appeared genuinely confused. "This was not authorized," he insisted. Kira met his gaze directly. "Was this meeting a distraction, Ambassador, while your forces prepare to expand the blockade?" Before Lorak could respond, alarms sounded throughout the station, security protocols activating as the Shadow Council fleet moved into attack position. "We need to evacuate." Kira ordered her team, moving quickly toward the docking bay. Lorak followed his own delegation. In disarray, the station shuddered as the first weapons impacted its shields. Ambassador Powell. He called this attack was not approved by the diplomatic corps. Military factions within the Shadow Council must have acted independently. Kira paused, studying his reaction, believing him despite her better judgment. "Then come with us," she offered. "We can return to reformed council space together. Show unity in the face of military aggression." Lorak hesitated, torn between loyalty to his faction and recognition of a dangerous escalation. As they reached the docking bay, Elena's eyes widened, the networks changing, responding to the attack. "What do you mean?" Sam demanded, helping the delegation board their vessel. "The defensive systems are activating," Elena explained, "not just around the targeted nodes, but throughout the entire network. It's protecting itself." Kira turned to Lorak. "Last chance, Ambassador." The station rocked with another impact more powerful than the Phi.